Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys. I've been trading cannabis stocks for the last 13 years. In this video, we're going to check in on the sector as despair and frustration comes to a head. But we're going to look at the charts. We're going to look at some previous clips from the past couple of weeks and see that really nothing unusual is happening right now. It's consolidation. We're anticipating higher lows, and we're going to look at the signs of what we need to see for those higher lows to be shaping up.
So technical analysis is about determining the most likely scenarios and probabilities, not about predicting the future. And once you've looked at tens of thousands of charts over 10,000 hours plus, you've seen every single pattern that there is to see. There's nothing new. Now, granted, they don't always play out the same way, but it helps us get a general idea of what to anticipate. Another thing that I do is I put my mindset in that of a bull and that of a bear. And now we're going to cut to a clip from 2 weeks ago. Granted, I make statements all the time. I'm right all the time. I'm wrong all the time. I talk about stocks and most likely scenarios every single day. In this example, we're going to show how a bear mindset saw exactly what this setup was, and it has now played out exactly as the bears wanted, headlines and all. Bears are scouting a daily lower high, absolutely. And just they have to be cautious about any safe headlines in the short term. But, an ideal scenario, if I'm a bear looking for a position in cash, give me some safe progress and a spike up. Get the hourly RSI nice and overbought, and then I look for that daily lower high swing. But again, we'll cross those bridges when we reach them as far as headlines are concerned. The unknowing timing of headlines obviously makes things a little bit more tricky, but just keeping in mind that, if I have a bear mindset, if I'm looking at this chart from a bear perspective, what if we get that headline and some positive movement in safe and we go up 10%, and now we need to wait another 2 weeks for the next safe headline. And I don't know the timeline off the top of my head as far as most likely scenario, but if that were to be the case, bears are going to jump all over that daily lower high. So you have to remember that on the OTC with names this illiquid, it is traders that are going to dictate the movement in between headlines. And so now we see that that's exactly what played out. We got the spike into the safe headline. The bears confirm the daily downtrend into further weekly consolidation. And so we look at where we stand, and it's really not surprising at all from a trading perspective. And so we just have to keep in mind that this is a trader's sector. I know a lot of you are investing and thinking in the long term, but again, there's so much time in between headlines that it's the traders that play when that is happening, or I should say while we're waiting between the headlines. And so, it's in a previous video, I talked about how it takes a really long time to change long-term trends. You need to pull back multiple weeks and then see continuation for multiple weeks. Eventually, you need a monthly trend change. You've got to pull back for months. And we're able to say that when that's going to happen, we know that sentiment's going to get trashed. We know everybody's going to say, oh my God, we're dumping back to the lows again. Because that's what you would anticipate people's mindset and psychology is going to be when you get this hype and euphoria spike and then it begins to fade. And in a previous video, I predicted that people were going to accuse me and the chart guys of orchestrating shorts. And fortunately for me, the frustration is being directed at MSOS and those that are running that ETF. But what I am anticipating is, again, last week's video, I'm looking at weekly EMA 12. I'm looking at the low $7 range. If we break 762 support, which for me is the more likely scenario. And so we had broader market fear and weak sentiment aside from Friday. But every other day aside from Friday, there was weakness and fear in the broader market. That's a factor as well. But that does not change the fact that I'm anticipating the most likely scenario, absent of a headline, is that we're going to set a weekly high or low, and then we're going to set a weekly lower high, and it's going to be a really boring next 3 to 6 weeks potentially. And so I'm starting to get ready to look for this weekly high or low. And my game plan is I'm going to allocate a few positions of scaling in from positions that I exited into the euphoria, knowing weekly consolidation would be inevitable if we're going to confirm a weekly uptrend. And what the bulls want to see is obviously the weekly high or low form as soon as possible. But I just want to keep seeing closes above weekly EMA 12. And so on the daily time frame, what's that going to look like? Well, next time we get a daily bounce going, and again, it's full bear control. We just had the third day where we closed higher than the open in the last 16 days or something like that. And we got a daily stair-step pattern where it's a lower high every single day, 7 days in a row. We will eventually see a daily bounce, but what will have to happen is we'll have to bounce for multiple days and we'll have to confirm a daily uptrend if we're going to say, that's it, our weekly high or low is set. And then we're going to scout the weekly low or high as the most likely scenario. And just an example of the short-term mindset, MSOS was going up all Monday morning or Friday morning, looking real good as the broader market bounced. This is what the NASDAQ was doing at that same point in time, straight up. Let's go dual screen here. It sure looks like a correlation to me as far as MSOS on the 15-minute time frame going up on the morning with the NASDAQ. We topped out at 11:30 a.m. Here's 11:30 a.m. in the NASDAQ. NASDAQ didn't top out. Why did MSOS dump like this? Traders. Why? High of yesterday resistance, high of Thursday resistance was 745. If you run into a resistance level overbought on short-term time frames, the bears are going, two things are going to happen. Bulls are going to take profit under resistance because at that point in time, a bull is up very nicely on the morning. You know, let's say you bought at 7. You're now up 5% in 2 hours in a name that's in a daily and weekly downtrend. Absolutely, a trader is going to be looking to take profit into that resistance. And shorts are going to look to enter a short. I mean, think of the risk and reward here. If I short at 738 and I put my stop at 746, I'm risking 8 pennies. And the reward ends up being 33 pennies to the low of the day. And maybe it ends up being more into next week. So the risk and reward favors that trade where I'm only risking a little bit if I'm wrong. And if I'm right, I get a lot more than I'm risking. Just from that one scenario, risking 8 cents, reward 33 cents. That means that if you're right 1 out of 4 times that you try that trade, you make money. Maybe it's not a lot, it's pretty much break even, but you've only got to be right 1 out of 4 times, which is why a trader is always factoring risk reward, and which is why technical analysis is more about risk management than predicting future events or price action. So what do we have to see? We need the bulls to confirm an hourly uptrend by holding the low of Friday and breaking the high of Friday to start a daily bounce. And then we zoom out and scout a daily low or high to be the most likely result, anything under 880. And we're going to take it one day at a time as always, watching for signs that a weekly high or low is being established and knowing the bulls have the work to have their work cut out in front of them. Individual names, again, measure the retracement sizes for comparisons. GTBIF, weekly consolidation at this point, just above 50% retracement. MSOS at this point, weekly consolidation, just below 50%, more like 60% retracement. So I can say GTBIF is holding up a bit better than MSOS. Let's look at CRLBF, which is often a lead bear out of the major names. It's retraced 67% of its move. And again, that just creates more and more space for the weekly lower high to be the result of the next move. So if you're comparing individual names, measure the weekly retracement size. But look, Google ChartGuys Fibs, F-I-B-S, to watch the Fibonacci video that helps us determine most likely scenarios using retracements. When it's 382 or less, we look for a bull flag continuation. When it's 50% or more, we look for the equilibrium and tightening range. I guess I just summarized the video, but watch the video, it's worthwhile. Cannabis names or Canadian cannabis names. So again, just mindset of a trader. What's going on when we top out here? We top at 192, we pull back almost 50%. Let's call it 45%. Then we bounce. This is bulls saying, oh man, I should have sold on the way up. This is my second chance. This is bears saying, oh man, I should have shorted. This is my second chance. Daily downtrend confirmed, and now the downtrend is our guide. We've given back. Again, it's so frustrating for me to be an empathetic person and to see people throwing their money away because they don't understand technical analysis. And that's understandable. It takes a lot to understand technical analysis. But you can go back and watch the videos into this euphoria where I was saying there's going to be a new wave of bag holders created. If you do not protect your positions, if you're just buying into the momentum, we're going to drop 30% very quickly. And next thing you know, it's a new wave of bag holders. And here we are again. And it's just so frustrating and painful to watch people on Twitter posting, you know, I'm loading TLRY at $3 or whatever it is. And I'm just sitting there knowing they're making a wrong decision. But, you know, anyways, CGC, weekly is looking for a higher low. but we can bounce 100% and not come close to the recent high and just set a weekly lower high. So again, this is the most likely scenario. Clearly the retracement size, we're pulling back much more significantly in these Canadian names. ACB, again, just go back and watch the video where we talked about the previous pumps that are short-lived. We don't confirm trend changes and we fade and give it all back because, again, dilution and the perpetual cycle that penny stocks play. And so again, it's, I'm not smarter than everybody else. I've just seen this. I was watching these patterns play out in 2011 and 2013, and then again in 2014. And so that's the advantage I have is time input. One of my edges is the experience of just seeing it all happen so many times. And so we're looking for an ACB weekly high or low compared to 43, but bears will be all over the weekly lower high as a result of the next bounce. TLRY, as weak as it can get, completely erasing any progress before we knew anything about Schedule 3. And earnings reaction was bearish, and we got a ton of space for a weekly lower high to be the result of the next bounce. And we have given back not just half of the news reaction, but we've given back almost 70% of months of progress on the bounce. And again, this is, could this be a monthly uptrend trying to shape up? Possible, but it needs to be, we need, in my opinion, if we're going to set a monthly higher low and higher high, we need that rescheduling news to give that kind of catalyst. But again, it's a trader's market. It's a trader's sector. And anyways, psychedelic names. CMPS had this long-term tightening range break bearish. That now means I'm much less interested in it. I need the bulls to give me a reason to be looking long in this name. And this bear break told me, nope, you don't have to pay attention as closely anymore because it's not happening in the near term. And so CMPS went down and tested and hit its all-time low. So that just affirms the bears are in complete control. Daily oversold bounce will be scouting a lower high. Eventually we'll be scouting the weekly lower high. And a lot of this weakness is weakness in the broader market. The biotech sector as a whole has been dumping, and these names are a part of that. So if the biotech sector, with some of the most established biotech stocks where everything's federally legal, if they're hitting the lowest level in a year and a half, then the highest risk, highest reward sector with some federal illegality still around it is going to be weak as well. And so we had MNMD weekly downtrend confirm. It's testing the lowest levels of the year. ATAI dumped. It's got a little bit of a bounce attempt going, but still overall very weak. CYBN. So in the video last week, we said CYBN, scout the daily high or low, then scout the lower high. Look at CGC. It was the same pattern. The difference, let's look at the difference between these names. So the commonality of this pattern had us knowing to scout the higher low and then the lower high. The big question was, do we then confirm the daily downtrend by breaking 48 cents? Just like CGC confirmed the daily downtrend by breaking 104. That affirmed bears have full control. What's the difference? Broader market strength on Friday, daily higher low set. This is now the equilibrium. High, low, lower high, higher low. Tightening range is going to break next week. We're keeping the higher lows. We're keeping the daily uptrend. The bulls played defense and successfully defended support. We're grinding daily EMA 12 support. And so now it's all about resistance of 60 cents. And if the bulls break 60 cents, then that's going to be a confirmation that they still have control. The simple statement is bulls keep full control as long as these little higher lows keep forming. And our new most important level is now 50 cents. But you can just see it's different. CGC, had it held the low of 104, that would have been extremely bullish for cannabis stocks if they held these daily uptrends. But they lost them into weekly consolidation. And so CYBN stands out different than everything on this list because it's in a daily uptrend right now and nothing else is. So watch for the volume and volatility spike on CYBN this coming week when it breaks either 50 cents or 60 cents. And other than that, feel free to ask any questions. Again, I know the frustration and emotions are high, but I'm just going off the technicals and most likely scenarios. And again, what helps me the most is completely detaching these stocks from any real companies. For me, it's just moving numbers in cyberspace. It can go higher than I think. It can go lower than I think. And again, that just really helps me from I know the feeling that most of you are feeling in your stomach. And I have felt that a dozen times over however many years. And I just got sick of that feeling. And I said, I don't want to feel this anymore. I'm going to take control. I'm not going to be just a leaf blowing in the wind where prices are going to dictate whether I feel sick to my stomach or euphoric and happy. I don't like living life that way. And so I'm going to take control and learn the game, because clearly traders are taking advantage of this sector. And if you are open-minded to trading both directions and you have experience and you're a professional trader, this sector is giving us the most likely scenarios and is giving opportunity in both directions. And so while the traders are taking advantage of those opportunities, the holders are wallowing in pain. And I hope one day things turn around and the holders are celebrating in euphoria. But in the meantime, we're just going to stick to it one day at a time and price action and most likely scenarios, and we'll see where we go from here. But I'm scouting weekly higher lows, and then I'm scouting weekly lower highs. Thanks for the likes and the shares. Have a good rest of your weekend.